Well, hello everyone, and this is EC the Gamer, and this is going to be my final thoughts and a bit of a review of the game NieR Replicant version 1.224 because I'm not going to mention the whole numbering of the game. So what I'm going to do is, for the first part of the video, I don't know how many minutes, right? It's going to depend on how much I'm going to talk about the game. I'm going to speak about my overall thoughts of of how it ended. So there's going to be a spoilers. So uh, by by the end of the video, then I'm going to give you like my overall score for the game. That's the part that I'm not going to talk about any how do you call any spoilers. So yeah, that's essentially how I'm going to do it. Uh, so let's start. Before I continue, spoiler alert, because I'm going to talk about a bit of the ending and a bit of the game. So yeah, okay guys, believe it or not, it has taken me, by the time you get this video, it has been like maybe three or more days that I have not recorded this video, this final thoughts, because I've been thinking about the game. This is one of those weird games because like I want to give the game something, a specific score, but I'm having a lot of debate about what to give it, because let me explain. When I tend to play games, a lot of people, some people focus on graphics, which they are important, by the way. Others focus on the story, gameplay, those kind of things. In my case, I focus on the story and the characters. Yes, gameplay has to be there, but if the story is there and the characters, then I will give it a high score. But this game, I have a bit of a mixed feeling with the gameplay and some aspects of the game, not the story, by the way. So yeah, when I finished the game, I was completely shocked on how they connected, they connected the ending with NieR Automata. Now I played NieR Automata when it came. That was in 2017. So it has been a long time since I played that game, but I'm sure that what I saw at the ending is going to be related to the game, because I do have some idea. But it's crazy how at the end they actually gave us something that I was begging in this whole game, that it was to change the character. We finally were able to play as Kaine, and that was completely different. She was, in the way she fight, the style, it was so unique, and I loved that. And unfortunately, it was for the last this ending that supposed, from what I understand, it is a new ending that they added to the game. So ending E was definitely one of the best endings that the game had. Essentially, Kaine went into the goddamn tree that was in the forest of myth, which I was from the beginning of the game. From the moment that I saw the forest of myth, and I saw that the tree had a hole inside of it, I felt, how the heck is this not like an entrance to something else? But we didn't do anything the whole game to enter the tree. Then suddenly, by the end, we are actually inside a tree. Thank goodness that there was actually something there. And essentially, the tree was what the stories were. When we were reading the story, the text segments in that game, that part, it was talking about how the tree was the memory of the world, and it was essentially that. It was like a data center for the project Gestalt. That's where essentially I assume that the replicants were made, or at least the information that they have been accumulating as time goes by. You know, that's where they were storing the information and everything. Not only that, from what I saw at the end, the thing that kind of destroyed, I think that was where the magic was stored, like the last vestiges of magic in the world. I think there were in that area. So that explains a bit of how magic was not in the next game, Automata. But the one thing that I loved was I was saying it was that they were able to give us a new character to play. It was very frustrating to play in this game because once you've finished the first ending, then ending and onward, essentially playing from the second part when NieR, the protagonist, is older. So you never play the first part again, which I understand why they did it, because imagine playing that game from the very beginning until the ending. This game would be longer than anything else. So I'm glad that they at least in the end they changed that a bit, but I would have hoped that they would have done it before. But I love the story. This game had an amazing story. You know, I was discussing this with someone in another channel. I was looking for videos to explain to me the story, because I felt like with Automata there was some complex information, but it was by the end of the game I think you had a fairly good idea of what the game is all about. This game, it was confusing until the very end. Some concepts that I just couldn't simply grasp. So then I went to look for information about the game, and then discovered that between Drakengard 1 and NieR, there's a whole bunch of story, like the apocalyptic events when they, you know, how the humanity turned into Gestalts and replicants, the project Gestalt and everything. It was like I mean, we're talking about a thousand years or so, and essentially if Yoko Taro wanted, he could have made another game, like a prequel to NieR, because there's enough information, there are enough events, truly important events, that he could have made another game with that. And I would hope that eventually, maybe in the future, they do something like that. I know they have NieR Reincarnation, so that's like a sequel to NieR Automata. Unfortunately, it's a mobile game, so I'm not going to play it. Unless it gets in the console, I'm never going to play it like that. But yes, this game has a lot of the NieR and Drakengard series has a lot of information that is not in the game in a video games way, media. It's mostly in theater, plays, drama CDs, in light novels, manga, that kind of thing. So it's very scattered in very different mediums and everything. So that's a bit of a sad thing, because if it was in video game, I would play each and every game really. But yes, at the end, Kaine, yes, he essentially gave the final blow to Project Gestalt and decided to essentially destroy the facility and resurrect a NieR, or at least make another NieR Replicant. Interesting. NieR Replicant. So she decided to that, and I was having a discussion with someone about this. Essentially, at one point it felt like it was turning into a bit of a argument, but I wasn't fighting the guy that I was talking to, because he was trying to explain to me that the replicants didn't have a soul, because in this world of NieR, the humanity was able to successfully get the soul of the person, that is the Gestalt, and separate it from the body. So the question of whether the humans have a soul or not, in some way they were able to answer that question, because they actually got the soul and separated from the body. Now what I was talking to the guy was that I felt that at the end the replicants they have a soul. And that's where the bit of the argument was starting to get, because he was talking to me that no, the Gestalt is actually the soul. And like I was saying, I get that. It's just that from a philosophical kind of a way, the replicants, you know, they have feelings, which yes, the humans created them with feelings, you know, they have blood, they have all of the components that would make a human. Yet the soul, they do not have that. But what I was talking to him is the whole reason why this project failed is because it has so many. The project still has so many flaws from the very beginning that they actually knew that they have, but they kept going because they were desperate. I mean, you can't fault them for that. So at the end of the day, I just once they saw that the replicants had a conscience, you know, they were not following the orders that they, you know, that they have planned for humanity. They had to assume that this was not going to get right. Like, just think about one of the moments of Jonah when Gestalt Jonah, the soul of Jonah, was inside her body, or the replicant body, and she said like she didn't want to live that life because she was hearing someone crying inside another girl, and she just said, you know, she accepted the fact that she was already gone, that how she was going to live like a dual life inside of this body. So she decided to just leave, die peacefully, and leave the body to the person that is already inside. And that's why I was talking to the man that was in a video in my own time. Like, I'm trying to say is, yes, maybe this is not like the Gestalt, the soul that the humans created, but it is a version. It resembles a kind of a soul, and that's what I love about this game, because this game does make you question, even question that we have today. Like, you know, if you go the scientific route, I don't think scientists may believe that humans have a soul. Essentially, they would say no. It's actually, the soul of the person, or what makes a person, is actually in the brain, the memories and whatever's inside of that brain. That's the person. And so like, I forgot my line of thought here. And so what I'm talking about is like, you go in the more religious route. Well, in religion, there are people that believe, you know, there's the belief of the soul, the human have a soul and everything. But this game makes you question, like, if a machine were to have, because that's another thing, I still don't know if the replicants are actually machines. We know that Devil and Popola are androids because they mentioned that, but then when it comes to them, they mention it as replicants. So I don't know what's the difference. I mean, maybe it is because they don't have blood or something like that. Like, maybe that could be a different, but I never saw that, so I don't know. Either way, even Popola and Devola, when I think it was Devola died, or he was about to die, she was saying like, how can we cry and feel like this if we don't have a soul? And that's what I'm trying to say, is like, what is a soul? Like, what is truly a soul? Because who in this game, who deserves to live more? Humanity, who had their chance, and unfortunately a disease forced them to create this crazy project to separate their soul, and then create another body, which in turn unfortunately had the unfortunate event that the body grew a consciousness, you know, a conscience. So what do you do in that point? Like, who deserves to live? The previous human, or the new individual that exists now? And for me, the truth of the matter is, I think it was the replicants who should have continued to live on, and not the humans of the past, because don't get me wrong, they have a harsh life. Humanity has been the Gestalts, you know, the Shades have been waiting for 1,000 years or so or more for this project to finalize. But at the end, I think the government did lie to the people, didn't tell the whole information, and I mean, the project had many flaws. We saw with Devil and Popola, they were trying to find out what was the cause, and they have the original Gestalt with them, you know, NieR, the NieR Gestalt. He was, the Shadow Lord was the most important part of the project, and they lost control of it. So I was reading that song. Now I don't know if this is true or not, but that the reason why this project actually failed was, you know, they based the technology, you know, the methods to separate the soul from the body from the original Gestalt. You know, he was he was the person that was successful. He didn't relapse. You know, he maintained his consciousness. He maintained who he was. But from what I understand and what I read, it seemed that he had already some flaws in his genetic material. So they made this was the biggest mistake, because rather than investigate that a bit further, they decided to go through with the project, and they essentially went and can reproduce this process with everyone else, yet they had that flaw. So that means that flaw was transmitted to all the other cases that they successfully separated the soul. So all the Gestalt, you know, the shades, they essentially already were flawed. There was a flaw in the system, and they never dealt with that first. And unfortunately, we have the results. At this point, this means that by the end of the story, the shades or the Gestalts will eventually die out, because I mean, we began seeing that how the souls were beginning to relapse, were beginning to get berserk, getting crazy, attacking Replicant, attacking everything that they would wash in the fields or anything. So that means that as time goes by, they're going to be more cases of relapse, and eventually the Replicants will have to deal with that. Now I don't know how the death of the soul affect the Replicants, because as I said before, I feel that the Replicants do have a soul, but I still don't know what actually is going to happen, because I said before, this game, even at the end, I thought that I was going to get a much better, clear idea of the game, but there's still a lot of things that I didn't understand. Like Emil at the end, he has his full body with 2 new hands, and I was like, he never explained it, by the way, but it was fun at the end. I was happy that they actually got back, but sad, you know, because I don't know, humanity's over. That's it. There's no more do-over. This was the last. There was the last attempt, desperate attempt from humanity to survive, and they failed. And again, I don't think it's a difficult position. Humanity had a big problem in the past, where they dealt with it right or wrong. I don't know. From what I understood, from the information that I got on the internet and everything, they didn't dealt with it really well, but some things were out of their hands. So yes, but man, the story is incredible. The gameplay, I love that they were able to take what made NieR Automata so great, the fast-paced action, you know, the sword plays and everything, and they were able to translate that in the game. They were able to modify it. So I'm glad that the game was really fast-paced. But sad, but a lot of the characters, you know, a lot of people die in this game. This game didn't have a villain. That was a very interesting thing. There was no true villain in this game. You can't call Devil and Popola bad guys. They were doing their job that they were designed to. The Shadow Lord, he was a victim too, you know. He wanted to save his sister, but then NieR Replicant, he wanted to save his sister too. So it's like two brothers trying to save their respective sisters. Uh, Everyone here, I think, is a victim of something of the past. Uh, but I love Yoko Taro's idea of the soul. You know, how he's trying to answer that question, or at least make people think about that. You know, the cycle. You know. What more can I say of the story? I love all of the characters. You know, Aine, Emil, especially, you know, Emil has a really sad. You know, he was a child that her sister was experimented on. They were not the only children. There were many. I recently discovered that Grimmer Weiss was another person that was experimented as a child. Also, I discovered that Kaine, she's saying that her body was weird, and I think it's that she's intersex, so she has body parts of male and female, which I don't have a problem with. So I was surprised that was what she was referring to. But something interesting at the end, it was that the assistant, you know, the administrator in the Force of Myth, the tree, they said that Kaine was a glitch, like an error in the system, which makes me think, who was the soul of Kaine? Because that's the other thing. These replicants don't have a soul, so which was her soul? Based on that story, it seemed like she didn't actually have a soul. That was a replicant that they made, I don't know. And somehow, because she was not acting as the norm, that what they were expecting. She was very different from everyone else, so she seems to be an error in the system somehow. I don't know how, but I didn't understand this. It has to do with ending D. I didn't understand a bit how erasing your save data resurrect the Kaine to become, like they said, a human. Or I don't know, because she wasn't a human, she's a replicant, so I didn't understand that part, but hey, that's the logic of the game. I can't argue with it. But yes, overall the endings were good, you know. I loved ending B in the sense that it wasn't my favorite one, but I did like that they gave us from the side of the Shays, Kaine and Emil, a bit of backstory from all of those individuals. And then we end in C, they gave us the point of view of Devil and Popola, and that definitely added more substance to the game and to the story. So yeah, amazing game. That's the only thing. I love the story. I wish there is another game. I feel that the NieR, not the Replicant, the NieR universe can have at least 2 more games, maybe a prequel and a sequel. Now, NieR Reincarnation is a sequel, but because it's not like the other game that we're playing, yes, I don't consider it a sequel. Yoko Taro may think it like that, but in my opinion, it is not. But yes, I hope there is like a sequel like NieR Replicant and NieR Automata. Let's see what more. Oh, by this video, I think you already posted the weapon stories. I gotta say, people, either watch my videos or look at, you know, when you play the game, upgrade the weapons. The stories give a lot of context to this world, and some very interesting stories there. So yeah, I truly recommend it. So this is essentially was the spoiler part of the game. Now I'm going to try to make a not spoilery, like a bit of a review, an overall score to the game. So yes, let's go with a bit of the review. This is not like a professional review, it's just my personal opinion of the game. So yes, as far as if we go to the story wise, this game is amazing. There's a lot of mystery, uh, shocking turn of events, uh, and yes, there are moments that definitely, if you're a person that cries, it's going to make you cry. In my case, I wasn't like in that at that level, but there were a lot of sad moments in the game. This world is very tragic. As far as, I mean, this game is perfect in a lot of parts. The soundtrack, the music, amazing. I understand why a lot of people said that it's one of the best soundtracks, like of many of the game that exists today. Uh, the characters and the character developments is amazing. Every character, even the side characters, uh, the side stories in the game, they're definitely worth playing. Then they give more context to the world, and there are some very sad stories there. Uh, the story, uh, if you haven't played this game, is separated in different routes, different endings. So once you finish the game the first time, you should continue to play it because there's more to the game. Uh, as far as story, great. Soundtrack, great. Gameplay, definitely, it was really good. It was very fast paced. That was something that they were able to integrate from NieR Automata. Uh, so if you're accustomed to NieR Automata, if you play NieR Automata or you haven't, this will give you an idea how NieR Automata was. It was a very fast paced. There's a lot of weapons to choose, a lot of magic abilities, but on the part of the magic that you use in the game, unfortunately, I think the game made a mistake because the way you play the game, the story is separated in two. It's like the younger protagonist and the older protagonist, and by the first part of that story, once you play the younger protagonist, the younger NieR, that's how the name that some people say it is. When you play younger NieR, he gets all the magic power essentially. So in the second part, is you have nothing to do, like you don't gain any more magic power. So already by the first part, you already have the magical powers, and there's no more anything else. So by the second part, you're just collecting weapons. It just felt like I would have loved that they would separate, that they would have found a different way to not made for, because they made the magic power at the beginning and like an important part, a storyline. So essentially they were forced to make the character have all of the powers by the first part of the game, and by the second part there was really nothing else for the character to upgrade, to level up. Yes, the weapon you can level up a bit, but there was nothing new. And as I said, one of the biggest weaknesses of this game was that you playing the same characters from the beginning to the end until ending E. That's when it changes everything, but you play the same characters, so at one point it gets boring because, I mean, you have played this character over and over again, and that's another problem with this game, is that the endings become repetitive. Like, let's say that the first ending A, as it's called, you were feeling sad, you cry or whatever. By the second time, you're like, yeah, you're a bit sad, but already you know what happened. And by the third time, you're like, oh my god, please, you're just skipping the cutscenes and everything. You just want to finish the story. Now, don't get me wrong, each ending does add something else, more background story to the character, more character development to Kaine, Emil, those kind of characters, but overall I just don't think there was enough new cutscenes or whatever, or new background information to merit the multiple endings. Like, they should have made like 3 endings and that's it, you know. And again, you could have made more ending, but you had to make them different, and I just felt that this game was not different enough. Now that's so as far as the gameplay, it has a good part, you know, especially how fast-paced it was, but there are a lot. You can say, you know, this game is not a remake. And I think that the creators of the game mentioned this. Like every time they were asked if this game was a remake, they were like, "Yeah, it is and it isn't." The graphics are of remake quality. They're definitely much better than the original NieR from what I saw in videos in the past. I never played the original NieR, but I saw it. I saw some pieces of it. It looked really, really dark, slow, and everything. So this game was definitely it was an upgrade from that one. So it's much more of remaster because you can see a lot of things from this game that was in 2010, I think, that came the original one. For example, fast travel. In this game, the fast travel just sucked. You know, sometimes, yeah, it works, it helps a bit, but not enough. Sometimes I was just questioning myself, like, well, isn't it better just to walk there rather than use the fast travel? So fast travel is not really good. The grinding in this game is horrendous. The randomness of the items, the material you had to get to upgrade your weapons or anything else is just crazy. I actually got pretty much every trophy. I only have one trophy left. But that one is easy. I just need to play the game again. But if you're going to do all the trophies, good luck because it's going to take you a long time. Unless you are lucky, because in my case I wasn't. And not just me, a lot of people had the same issue. It's like, then the grinding, the randomness was just crazy. You know, you needed to get 5, let's say there was something called a black pearl. You need to get 5 black pearls. That's a material. You only get that material in a coast, in seafront. That's one of the places in the game. And you could get there. There's like 3 places that you can get it, 3 or 4 places in that town. You go there. If you don't get it there, you have to go back outside of the town or reload your save, and then go back again. And I assure you that that second time that you go, you're not going to get anything. You have to go back, and it's like a back and forth. Or if it's a monster, you have to constantly fight and kill a monster over and over again, and hope that the monster just, you know, gives you the item. It's hell. It's really, I have played other games, but not at this level. Like the grinding was like hard, really hard, and time consuming. There was a point that was just I just want to finish the story, but and the end I was able to do it. Another thing that the game has an issue is the difficulty. Now I played the game normal, but I can tell you, even if you play it hard, the game is easy. And I don't think it wasn't me, it's just it wasn't that. For example, I am one of those guys that if the game have a level system that I'm going to, if the monster is level 30, then I'm going to go level 40 or level 35. I'm going to always go over the level of that monster to defeat it. That's the way I play. Some people are more strategic. They can finish a game, they can finish a boss with a lower level because they know how to strategize and to learn from the mistake. I don't like to play like that. I just level up and that's it. This game was just crazy. Like by the end, there was no real in any of the endings. Like by the first ending, I was already as more powerful than any of the like. Once I finished the first ending of this game, when I went to the second one, I was already more powerful in that ending than anyone would expect. Like I was finishing like it came to a point that I had to use a much weaker weapon so that I couldn't defeat the bosses fast enough, because sometimes I would miss some of the dialogue because of that. So yeah, the level system here is simply not good, and I think in my opinion it is because the monsters don't have a level. Like you do have a level, but you never see any of the monsters have levels. It seems like they really are not getting stronger, only yourself. So you can see now why I'm trying to say that I've been struggling a lot to give a score to this game, because on one hand I want to give it a high score because the story, I love the story, the character and the character development is amazing. The soundtrack, the gameplay, when it comes to the fighting, is really good, but a lot of the other aspects of the game, they're really not good. They feel like something from an older game, which this is, but you would expect that they would at least change them a bit, or at least lessen the blow, but they didn't. So let me see. I already talked about the gameplay, the soundtrack, the characters, the side quests. Yes, they're really good to do. I recommend them doing them. The weapon upgrade, I said the grinding is horrible, but the weapon they have different stories that I recommend you. It's not grinding it yourself. Try to look for it on the internet, because there's some interesting stories there that are related to the story of the game. So I said before, this game has me conflicted because I wanted to love it as much as I love Automata. I think I'm going to play NieR Automata, but at the time that I play, I think I gave that game I gave it like a 10 out of 10. Let's see if I'm going to give it the same this time when I play it again, because now I have this backstory. When I play NieR Automata, I never played NieR, so I didn't know what the heck the game was. But it's not a necessity to play this game to understand the other. It's just that if you want a bit more backstory and understand some things of that game, some reference that they make, you need to play this and maybe some Drakengard game to understand it a bit better. But I felt that NieR Automata you can understand that game much more than this one. But still, the story was great. I don't know why. Even if I don't understand everything, I just love the story. So let's go and give this a final score. My final score, and oh damn, I forgot about this. I mentioned this in some of my videos of the game, that this game was not going to get a 10 out of 10 because one thing that I eliminated one point of it was that there is some parts that have like text, this black screen that you have to read a lot of text, and those parts are crazy. They're crazy long. I mean, when I recorded, sometimes it could give me like 20 or 30 minutes just to read all the information, which actually is a really cool like a very important information, interesting. But one thing is to play in one ending, but then you have to go in the second part of the game and read that again, and then the third time read that all over again, or just some people just skip it. But again, I don't know what points they're going. I didn't know at what point the information was the same, so I had to read it again because I need to make sure. By the ending D or E, ending D, I think C and D, I was just skipping it because there wasn't really no new information. So that took a whole point away because of that. I wish they would have. The problem was that there was no dialogue, like there was no voice acting in that part. It was weird because there were every now and then, I think when it pertained with Grimoire Wise, the voice of Grimoire Wise were Kaina or Emil, or Emil's sister, Halua. They have voice, and not everything. It wasn't some specific ones. I would have loved them to actually have a bit of a voiceover, or even a background area. They didn't have that, like a background where you could see, I don't know, something visual. That's what I needed. so that took away a point. So as I said before, my conflict is that I put more stock in the story and the characters than in the gameplay, graphic, those type of things. But there's some aspects of the gameplay or the way you're played, like the fast travel, grinding, the materials, the harvesting of materials. That and the repetition. The game was way too repetitive for my taste. They said that the game was slow. Some people that was whenever I was reading about this game, they said like be careful because the game is more slower than NieR Automata, and they were saying like maybe in the story, but I think the story was it's just that it was repetitive. You were repeating the same ending over and over again. Yes, with new addition to the story, but it was overall the same story. But my overall score in this game is going to be an 8.5 out of 10. It was actually going to be an 8, but the ending E when it actually pushed it to 8.5, but not enough to a 9. And I know that maybe people want to have a solid 8, solid 9, solid 10, that kind of score. I really tried to give it a 9 or an 8. I just couldn't. The game definitely, that ending did raise it up, but not enough to get a 9. So it's an 8.5 out of 10. But that's already an incredible score, by the way. It's just incredible. This game was amazing. I can definitely understand why a lot of people are fans of the NieR series. I became a fan with NieR Automata. Then eventually, recently, I played Drakengard 3. I can't play Drakengard 1 because it's a really old game, and Drakengard 2 was like a spin-off game, so it's not important to the overall story. But if I were to say which I love more, Drakengard series or the NieR universe, I prefer the NieR universe. There's something about the gritty, realistic setting that it is this game. Drakengard is more medieval, which is not bad, but sometimes feel more unrealistic. This one, it's like I can see a world like this actually happens, actually exists. So yes, overall the game was really amazing. Story wise it's great. The characters are some of the best characters that I have seen in other games. So are they better than NieR Automata? I'm going to have to compare once I played it again, but these ones are very high up there. So yeah, there's really nothing more to say. That's a bit of a review. I already said my final thoughts in the game. Totally recommend the game. I think you're going to have a good time. The game is really well made. Unfortunately, you can see the age of the game. They try to make the character looks amazing. It looks much brighter. Like everything is definitely an upgrade. It's just that when it comes to the substance of the mechanics of the game, fast travel, harvesting, the weapons, upgrades, the magic powers. As I said before, the powers is just I could tell you that I used like 1 or 2 of the powers. All the powers are really good. It's just that I just never found necessity to use them. So, but yes, it's still an amazing game even with those flaws. I totally recommend the game. So yeah, guys, I'm going to leave it here. I hope that you enjoyed the video. As always, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this commentary here. Leave a comment and also hit that notification bell so you can get notified of the videos that come to the channel. That's pretty much it. The next game is going to be Automata. I'm going to follow up with that. this time I definitely want to. Hopefully, I play NieR Automata because I don't think there's no problem with copyright or the recording. I hope. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe there is. Let's hope that there's nothing there that I can record. So we'll see. I hope that I can play it. But yeah, that's all for now. EC the Gamer signing off, and I will see you on my next video.